Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Amba Tvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshini. In the second chapter of the Gita, Bhagavan Shri Krishna is responding to Arjuna's request, stating that now I surrender unto you. Please tell me what is the best. What should I do? Please tell me. You decide, determine the best and let me know. In the flow of thoughts, in the sequence of thoughts, Sri Krishna started with the highest standpoint, saying, as far as the real identity is concerned, the self, there was never a time when the self was not there, and there will never be a time when the self is not. So there is no cause of any grief. A knowledgeable person who knows this doesn't grieve. So there is no cause of grief. But what about these joys and sorrows? They keep coming and going. We can't avoid that. We are experiencing those that you have to bear with, because they are not permanent. If one is there today, it will go away. The second will come. So you remain established in the real self. Don't worry. And what is this real self? What is reality? That which is never absent is real, and that which is never present is unreal. And once we understand this definition, then all our various identities that keep coming and going, but that real identity is never absent. I may experience this waking world when I am awake. I may experience the dream world when I am dreaming. I may experience nothing when I am in deep sleep. But in all this, I am common. And that is never absent. Therefore, that is reality. And giving this, the various aspects of indicating the self, he says that which is beyond birth, beyond death, beyond any kind of cause and effect relationship, beyond all change, that which is constant, and that which is beyond even time, beyond all modification, from which time was born, that which is ancient yet ever new, that which is never killed even when the body dies. That is what is the self. But still, what to do? We see that the body has died, that the person, okay, the person is not the body, okay, understandable, but he is leaving the body, then he goes to another body, so much of pain. He says that also is not worthy of grief. Why? Because like we change different clothes based on our need, based on wherever my field of action is, based on that, I keep changing my clothes. So, for example, if I am going to a party, I don't need to wear formal clothes and go there. But if I am going to sleep, I don't wear my jeans and go to sleep. There is everything. So, as per my requirement, as per my need, I change clothes. I change clothes so many times in the day. And there are some people who don't change clothes over many days also. So, who decides? The clothes don't decide. The other people don't decide. The wearer of the clothes decides. And if the wearer of the clothes is a very small child, then the mother decides. So, it really is not a matter of grief because there was a need. So, that pair of clothes was discarded and the new pair was taken up. So, similarly, the body, its use is over. I have put it down and the new body is taken up. So, there is no cause of grief, there is no cause of pain. So even the body undergoes pain and it doesn't undergo pain. If the body is destroyed, then it is not destroyed. And therefore, here Bhagavan says in verse number 23, Nainam chindanti shastrani छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापः न शोषयति मारुतः न शोषयति मारुतः एनम आत्मानम this self shastrani na chindanti, weapons cannot cleave this atma, this self. The self does not undergo any destruction or harm by any weapon. Then pavakah enam na dahati, the fire does not burn this self. Apaha enam na kledayanti, waters do not wet this self. Marutaha enam na shoshayati, winds don't dry the self. So it is harm proof, destruction proof. So what do you mean? So here if we see weapons, fire, water, air. If we see fire, water, air belongs to the category of natural causes of destruction. So some things just leave them, after some time they get dried. There's a flower, with lot of love we go and present it to someone. A flower, okay, and that flower that person receives. How much time is it going to be like that? After some time, dried. And after it dries, it just falls off, withers away. What happened? Nobody wanted to destroy, but the winds were there, it just got by itself dried and got destroyed. So, one. Then there are some things, just with moisture, they get destroyed. So many things are there. So if there is, you leave it outside, some moisture, gone. Like we have those crunchies, even those nuts and all, leave them outside. Then what happens? After some time, you don't feel like eating. They go rancid. What happened? Moisture. It has destroyed. Then some things, the heat itself is destroyed. So that is why in the label it is written, keep refrigerated. Because if you don't keep it refrigerated, the heat will destroy. The food gets putrefied. Just by the heat. Nobody is doing anything to harm it. By itself, naturally, these things destroy. So, air, water, fire, all these are natural means of destruction. And Shastrani, weapons means all man-made means of destruction. Somebody destroys it. So something that is brought about or something that naturally happens. So here he is saying this self is the one which is not destroyed by any natural process, nor is it destroyed by any induced artificial process. Means nobody can destroy it, and it will not by itself also get deteriorated. Nothing can happen to it. We don't have to. This body, if it is exposed to any extreme weather, too cold, too hot, then it will affect the body. It will happen. We see the effects. But as far as the self is concerned, it is untouched. It doesn't get affected. Whatever happens, doesn't get affected. So therefore, no natural cause, no man-made artificial cause can destroy this self. Who is this self? The embodied one, which it was said as Dehi, which was said as Shariri. Sharira means body. Deha means body. Dehi or Shariri means the embodied one. The one who is enlivening this body and who is functioning through this body. That embodied one, that self is indestructible. It cannot be destroyed by any of these sources of destruction or causes of destruction. Oh, okay. And therefore here some adjectives are given for this self. What are the adjectives of this self? 24th verse we will read. Achedyoyamadahyyoyam Achedyoyamadahyyoyam Akledyo ashoshya evacha Akledyo ashoshya evacha Nityas sarvagatasthānuho Nityas sarvagatasthānuho Achaloyam sanatanaha Achaloyam sanatanaha. I am Atma, this self is Achedyaha. Achedyaha, uncleavable. Earlier it was said the weapons cannot cleave it. So okay, then something else can cleave it? No, it is uncleavable by anything. Adahyoyam. Fire cannot burn. But maybe somebody is, angry look also burns people. There may not be need of a fire. Looks like that, burnt into ashes. So even there is no fire, but it is unburnable. You cannot burn it down. Nowadays, I recently learnt of this process. Earlier there was only fire, which was a medium of cooking. Now recently I heard that there is something called vacuum cooking. There is a technology of vacuum cooking. So I was very intrigued that, which means we don't need fire. I said, no, we need but very little fire. Vacuum only cooks. So something technology, new technology. So, then I use vacuum. Even then it cannot be burnt. It cannot be squeezed with vacuum. So, no modern technology also can harm it in any way. Adahyah, it is unburnable. Then you use whatever you want to, it is not going to be possible. Akledyah, it can never become wet. Unwettable. throw it in the ocean also, it will never get wet. You can't throw the self in the ocean, but just for the sake of understanding that you dip it in ocean, it cannot get wet because it is not possible to wet it. Ashoshya evacha. And it is ashoshya, it can never be dried. So node is, it is indestructible. Already it was said. Now more detail, it is just being elaborated that any means it cannot be destroyed. Eva means it is giving more stress on the matter that it can never be destroyed by any of these means. No, this is all when we say achedyaha, adahyaha, akledyaha, ashoshaha. So it cannot be. So there's a negative that has been used in these four adjectives in the first line of the verse. In the second line of the verse, there is a positive set of adjectives. So what is it? Nityaha. Because it cannot be destroyed by anything, it is nityaha, eternal. Nityaha. Sarvagataha. When we say nityaha, means it is eternal, means what? Time cannot have its effect upon it. Otherwise, with time it will get destroyed. Now we say that any problem is there, don't worry. With time it will get solved. You get hurt, oh, what should I do? Someone, don't worry. With time it will be healed. With time, here that time effect will not be there. So not to worry. So nityaha, so beyond time. Sarvagataha means that which is all pervading, that which has reached everywhere. Means it is beyond space. Now when we say beyond time and beyond space, it is very difficult for us to comprehend such an idea. What would it be which is beyond the framework of time and space? Because all that we know today is all within the framework of time and space. As soon as I say something, there is a when and a where immediately associated with it. I say, today is my birthday. Oh, when were you born? Where were you born? So if there is an event, it has to take place at a place and a time. Without that, it is not possible. And our mind works like that only. To comprehend anything, to understand anything, there has to be a when and where. We say, please do come for the Gita class. Okay, I will come. Okay, goodbye. So why did you not come? I asked you to come and you said you will come. But you never told me when and where. When and where is required. Without that, we can't go anywhere. We can't accept any invitation. We can't do anything. I make a timetable. Tomorrow onwards, I want to follow this timetable. Time. And at that time, where I want to be. And then what I will do. That is a different thing. So this time and space is something that we are always used to. We exist and we function in time and space. Here it is said beyond time, beyond space. Nityaha sarvagataha. Now as soon as we say beyond time and beyond space, we think that it is not there within time and space. That's how we think. Without beyond time, beyond space. Means what? Within time and space framework, it is not there. Because it is beyond. Beyond does not mean that. Beyond means it is not limited within time and space. It is there in that time and space also and beyond it also. Because beyond does not mean it is not here. Because as soon as we say it is not here means we have limited it. That it is not in some place and it is not at some time. So it is at all places, at all times. That is what is beyond time and space. So time does not have any effect on it and space also doesn't have any effect on it. For anything to exist, it needs space. If I have to put this, I say I need space on the table. So if I have to put a flower pot on the table, what do? I say, let me make space. then I will put it here. So I want to make space. So without space, nothing can exist. But the self is what? Without which space cannot exist. That is called beyond space. It is a subtle point and it is difficult to grasp. And if at all it can be grasped by the intellect, it can be grasped only as a concept. But the self is not a concept, it is beyond the concept. Then what is it? I don't understand. If we understand that it is not the self, because it cannot be the object of my understanding also. That is what is beyond time and space. I cannot comprehend. How can the effect comprehend the cause? Puja Gurudev used to give a very, very practical example, and this example will clarify this very beautifully. There's a flashlight or a torchlight, battery operated flashlight. Now, when I turn it on, in the light of that flashlight, I can see everything in the world. What to talk of world, in my room. Okay? In the room, whatever is there, this light can illumine everything. When I go in front of the mirror, I put the light on my face, it can illumine my face also and I can see the reflection in the mirror. Everything it can illumine except the batteries that is there behind the bulb. The battery that is the cause of the light in the bulb, that bulb light cannot illumine the battery which is behind it. And as soon as I turn the bulb towards the battery, there is no light. And as soon as there is light, the batteries cannot be seen. So that because of which everything else can be seen, cannot be seen with this light. Then what is the proof of this being there? The very fact that there is light in the bulb is the proof that there is battery behind it. Otherwise, there won't be any light. So the very fact that I can see, hear, taste, smell, touch, think, feel, all this I am able to do. The very fact that all this is functioning, there is light in the senses, in the mind, which means there is that battery behind it, which is called the self. And this cannot illumine the self as an object. So is it never possible to know the self? It is not possible to know the self as an object in time and space, but it can be known as I, the subject, the experiencer. The one who not only sees the objects illumined, but also knows the instruments that are illumining the objects outside. So, not only the one who is aware of the framework of time and space, but also that very awareness. Where did that consciousness, that sentiency come from? That also is coming from the self. That is to be known as me, myself. So, Nityaha Sarvagataha, beyond space. Then Sthanuhu. Sthanuhu means that which is steady, not moving. And Achalaha. Now, Achalaha also means not moving. Sthanuhu also means not moving. But Sthanuhu and Achalaha, fine difference between the two words is, when we say Sthanuhu means it is not moving from place to place. But okay, it is standing in one place like trees and plants, etc. They are also Sthanu. But When they are standing in one place, there is movement in the same place. So it is Thanu, but it is Chala. Whereas the self, it is Sthanu and Achala, means no movement, no change. Oh, so it is like a tree which doesn't move, means it is like a dead tree. But tree is limited in time and space. This is beyond time, beyond space. Sarvagataha means everywhere, all pervading. So not bound by any limitation of time and space. That is the pervasiveness of the self. And it doesn't undergo any change. Because something can be pervasive, but it keeps changing. For example, air. Now, air is pervasive. In this whole room, there is air. Outside also, there is air. Yes. But sometimes it is in the form of a breeze. Sometimes it is in the form of a cyclone. Sometimes it is still not moving at all. Why is it so hot? What is this? No breeze, nothing. So it is changing. There is movement. Sometimes there is no movement. So pervasive but changing. Here it is pervasive, never changing. No movement. No movement from place to place. No movement in one place also. And why there is no movement? Because movement is possible only to a place where it is not already there. By saying Sarvagataha, it is all pervading. So where will it move to? So movement is not there at all. Sthanu, Sthira, Achala, Sanatanaha. Sanatanaha means one other meaning. The previous verses it was said Puranaha. Puranaha, it's old and ancient, yet ever new. That is what Sanatanaha also means. Ancient, but not undergoing any change, ever new, fresh, ever fresh. So that is also beyond time. So by saying Nityaha and Sanatanaha, is saying beyond time. By saying Sarvagataha, it is beyond space. And Sthanuhu Achalaha means no movement, no change. And when there is no change, means there is no cause-effect relationship also. Because when there is a change, the change is an effect of some cause. So by negating movements, it is negating all cause and effect relationship. Therefore, it is neither a cause nor an effect. It is not affected by time and nor affected by space. So Nitya Sarvagata Sthanaho Achaloyam Sanatanaha. That is, and what is this talking about? What are these adjectives for? What are these adjectives qualifying or indicating? It is not indicating some self. It is talking about me. So we have to understand these are all adjectives for me. And when I say me, it is not, you should not say, oh, about you. No, we all should say it is for me. It is about me. It is about me. This is self means what? The meaning of self means I. So all these are my adjectives. I can never be cleaved by any weapon. I can never be burnt. I can never be wet. I can never be dried. I am beyond time. I am beyond space. I am all pervading. I am beyond causation. I am beyond any change. I am that changeless substratum on which all this change is playing. I am that. That which is constant in everything that is changing. That is me. So that is how I am reality, because that is Sat which is never absent. And not just is never absent, it never undergoes any change even when it is present. That kind of Achedyoyam. Here I am means this, but we have to understand as this talking about me. But when Bhagavan is talking to Arjuna, he is talking about all these people you are worried about. You are worried that I will kill them and I will incur a lot of sin and they will die because of me. Nothing is going to happen, because if we are talking about the self, it cannot be killed. And if you are talking about the body, it is anyway going to perish. So there is no cause of any kind of shoka, moha, no delusion, no pain, no grief required. Okay. Going further, he says something to conclude this topic. So this topic of what the self is, direct indication to the self, the highest standpoint. So this standpoint is concluded here at this with this 25th verse. Avyaktoyamachintyoyam Avyaktoyamachintyoyam Avikaryoyamuchyate Avikaryoyamuchyate Tasmadevam viditvainam Tasmadevam viditvainam Nanushocitumarhasi. Continuing, he is saying, I am avyaktaha. This is unmanifest. Unmanifest, avyakta, means that which cannot be made an object of the senses or the mind is called avyakta. It cannot be objectified. We have already seen with the example of the flashlight that it cannot be seen as an object of the senses or the mind, but because of which the senses and the mind function. That is avyakta. Not vyakta, not manifest, unmanifest. Achintyaha. Achintyaha, it cannot be comprehended by the intellect. So many words are there. So much of reflection is required to understand, but at the end of it, it is saying it cannot be comprehended by the intellect. The intellect has to be used, but finally it cannot be comprehended. So then how will we get this knowledge? For this also Puja Gurudev used to give beautiful example. If we have watched these Olympics, etc., there are many different events. One of the events is, in the athletics, is a pole vault. So you jump very high with the help of a pole. So this athlete, he takes the pole, runs, and then fixes that pole at one place and jumps with the help of that pole, goes to the highest point possible and then drops the pole and goes beyond to the other side. Similarly, yes, this self cannot be comprehended by the intellect, achintyaha, but still the intellect has to be used as a pole in a pole vault. So the intellect only helps us to study these scriptures, understand the words and its meanings, try to guide our attention towards these words that are indicating a direction, and then like the pole, it rises, helps us to rise above all these words and their meanings, and then the intellect has to be dropped and we go beyond to understand ourselves. This is the process. So achintyaha, it can never be comprehended by the intellect, but intellect has to be used as an instrument. That is the only instrument we have. Achintyaha. Avikaryaha. It is avikari. It doesn't undergo any modification or change. It is said that everything grows, undergoes certain changes. For example, this body, we say it is first born, and after it is born, it grows. As it grows, at some point, it matures, goes to the best possible growth. then after that maturing, slowly it starts decaying. And then when it goes on decaying, one day it is dying or destroyed. So this whole process of different change, this is called vikara, changes, modifications. So birth, growth, maturity, decay, death, all these are called as vikaras, different types of modifications or change. Avikaryaha ayam, it doesn't undergo any change. Changeless. It doesn't undergo any modification like any gross object, even like the gross body. Now, by saying avikaryaha, it is indicated this self is not the gross body. By saying avyaktaha, unmanifest, it is said it is never the object of any senses, it is beyond the senses. By saying achintyaha, it is established that it is beyond the mind and intellect equipment. So beyond the gross body, beyond the senses, beyond the mind and intellect is the self. And he's concluding this topic by saying, Enam evam viditva having known, enam, this self, evam, in this manner. In which manner? In the manner that the last 3 verses have been telling specifically, and before that also it has been explained elaborately. In this manner, having known this self, so right from the 19th verse onwards, when it said that it is not born, not dying, when the body dies, it doesn't die, all these things, and then it is said it is like the clothes are being changed, but nothing happens to the self by itself. The self is everywhere, it is beyond time, space, causation, etc. All these things that was pointed out, it can never be cleaved by any weapon, it can never be destroyed by any natural forces. All these things, evam means includes all this. In this manner, the way it has been explained so far, in this manner, enam viditva, having known this self, therefore, tasmat na anushochitum arhasi. He is saying, hey Arjun, you don't deserve to be grieving if you know this in this manner. If anyone gets to know the self in this manner, then they don't need to grieve. How did this whole thing begin? It began with, Bhagavan said that you are talking like some knowledgeable person, but you are behaving completely in a different manner, like an ignorant person. So here he is saying a knowledgeable person will not grieve. Evam viditva, having known in this manner, na anushochitum arhasi. You don't deserve to be, it is not fit to grieve upon. You should not grieve. And here also, we may see, we have our own relationships with people, with objects, with places, our own attachments, our own, all these things are there. And then we say, oh, how can you say that you should not grieve and all? No, grief happens sometimes when we depart, sometimes when we, it does happen. Why should we not grieve? Here it is not said that you should never grieve even for a second. Here what is said is, na anushochitum arhasi. The same thing was said in the 11th verse when Krishna began also. Same thing. Na anushochanti panditaha. Anushochitum arhasi means what? Anu, the prefix anu means continuously for a long time. Grieving is not proper. There is no reason to grieve for long. Yes, grief may happen for some time. As human beings, it is possible that we may feel a little bit of sorrow. It is possible, okay. But continuously, if that is going on, and I am not able to apply my mind in any direction that I wish to apply, and I'm completely drowning in that sorrow and the thoughts, then it is not a wise thing. So here he is very clearly saying, Na anushochitum arhasi. Don't keep going on and on and on and on and on. And we had seen when we were discussing the 14th verse, the experience by itself is only as long as the senses and the objects come in contact. It is a measured experience. As soon as this contact breaks, the experience is gone. But the joy or sorrow, what happens to that? It is long time. Why? Memory. It is not the experience. It is a memory of that experience, which goes on and on and on and on, keeps on elongating. That is what here Krishna is saying. Na anushochitum arhasi. You don't deserve to be sorrowful continuously for this long. Drop it. It doesn't deserve so much of your importance, so much of your attention, so much of sorrow. You don't have to grieve. Arhasi word means you should not. It is not fit for you to grieve this way. So earlier he said, Na anushochanti panditaha. Knowledgeable people don't grieve. Concluding this topic, he is saying, Evam viditva, having known thus, you should not grieve this way. Means what? You get to know, get the knowledge, the way you are speaking, time to behave like that also. So get to know and stop grieving. So this highest standpoint is concluding here. Now Krishna sees, has anything happened to Arjuna? He's listening, very sincerely listening. It's not that he's not even listening at all. He's very sincerely listening, but he's not able to lift his mind to that level. Sometimes the teacher is very compassionate and very beautifully explains, but students have the limitation of that, cannot lift the mind to that level of the teacher. So then the communication is not happening. Even if it is happening, yes, I am listening, I am understanding the words, but I am not able to make any transformation happen into myself. Nothing is happening. What to do? So even now, he was still in that state of disease. Although there was a little bit of calm when Bhagavan started speaking, there was a little bit of peace in him, but still he could not completely relate to whatever he heard because he was so much drowned in grief that in grief, this kind of condition somebody is there. The highest standpoint inspires. Yes, it may inspire, but sometimes it does not elevate because we are not used to this kind of treatment. So this is Krishna cure, Krishna treatment for the Arjuna disease. So he is given the highest possible treatment. It is not able to take. That is why doctors, sometimes they try to give the highest dose and say, let us quickly get him on his feet. But sometimes the patient doesn't respond. So they say, okay, let me reduce the dose. Maybe that will help him respond. Because he is such a acute problem that it will not be, high dose will not have any effect. So mild doses may have some effect. So let me come down a little bit. Like a teacher, he wants the student to come up to his level. But the student is not able to come up just by listening to the teacher. The teacher comes down one step. Okay, now come, I have come closer to you. So he is trying to get him. So he is coming down and saying what? So he is saying the next two verses we will read. अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैवं शोचितुमर्हसि नैवं शोचितुमर्हसि अथ he says, okay Arjun, you are not able to subscribe to this view at this moment. You find yourself incapable of raising yourself to that level of thinking. Okay, let us say what you think is right. How do you know that what I think? He's saying, Atacha enam. If let us say this enam atmanam, this self, you think of it as nitya jatam. Let us say, this is not the principle that Sri Krishna is advocating. He is saying, let us say you think this way and I agree to what you say. So it is just an assumption based on the belief of Arjuna. And when we say belief of Arjuna, means many of us also think like this only. What is the thinking? This self is nitya jatam, nityam mritam. Means it is born and dies, again born, again dies, again born, again dies. Nitya jatam, again and again going through birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. This is going on. Nitya jatam, nityam va, manyase. Manyase means you consider it that way, and let us say I accept that you are saying. Whatever you are saying, that okay, your belief is that the self is born and dies again and again. Okay. Let us say that is true. Even if we consider this principle to be true, tathapi, even then, He Mahabaho, O mighty armed Arjuna, strong soldier Arjuna, Tvam evam shochitum na arhasi. You don't deserve to grieve in this manner. Even if you consider the self to be born again and again and is dying again and again, even if you consider that way and even if we accept that to be true, although this is not true, but still let us say we accept it to be true, even then you don't need to grieve. There is no cause of grief, even if this is true. No, we say, I don't consider the self to be born again and again. I am a student of Vedanta. I have studied Gita and all. I know, I have studied Upanishad also. I know, I don't consider the self to be born again and again and dying again and again. No, I don't consider. We may not consider, we may not think in these terms that the self is born again and again and it dies again and again. We may not think that way. But we are thinking that I have come here. After some time, I have to go. Then, next birth, I don't know where I will be, what form I will get. And all the scriptures are saying, whatever you have to do, finish now only, because next birth, no guarantee that you will be a human being. So, whatever you can achieve only in a human birth, do it now, because next birth, no guarantee. You may be a sparrow, you may be a donkey. Nobody knows. You may be some bed bug, only living on somebody's blood. Who knows what will you be? You may be lice sitting on the heads of people. We don't know what we will become. So, I don't know. It's a rare opportunity I've got. I'm not living a human birth. So let me do something that I can't do in any other body. When I become an animal or anything, I can't do anything. Let me do that in the human birth. So there was one person who was only eating yogurt and never having milk. So somebody asks, why are you eating only yogurt? Why don't you have milk? Because milk we can have when we become any animal also. But yogurt only in human birth we can have. So that is not what the scriptures mean when they say you should do what you can achieve only in human birth. It means achieve the self-knowledge, because this cannot be achieved anywhere else. So this, even if you consider, so this is how we consider. We consider, I am born now, I will die, and the next birth, I don't know what I will get, so let me do whatever I want. So I am thinking that I will be born, I was born, I am died. No, last birth, maybe I was doing this, that is why this birth is like this. So many such, I am taking it all up, superimposing on the self only. I am saying it I. And when I talk about others also, somebody very lazy, doesn't even want to get up from the bed. So you will become a buffalo in your next birth if you don't get up. So lazy you are, you will become a buffalo. Means you will be born again. You will be born, you will die, you will be born, you will die. So this we have already taken up, we have taken it up as the reality. And there is no harm. There is no harm. Bhagavan is not saying that what you are saying is wrong. No, he is not challenging Arjuna's belief. He said, okay, you believe, you are free to believe whatever you want to. It doesn't matter. Because sometimes this kind of belief inspires us to do things that we otherwise may not do. So we are saying, okay, this is the only opportunity. I don't know after that what kind of opportunity I'll get, when I'll become another time, human being. I don't know. Now I have it. Let me make most of it. So it may inspire. So this belief is not, Bhagavan is not saying this is wrong belief here. Here he is only saying, even if you believe this to be right, never mind Arjuna, but the fact is, even in this belief, there is no scope for grief. What I said is the reality. Bhagavan says that whatever I have said, that the self is unborn, it is beyond death, it is beyond time and space, all that is the reality, yes. And that's what the Veda says. Bhagavan quoted the Upanishads also for this and said this is validated by the Veda. It is the reality. This is the principle that we need to go by. That is the ultimate truth. But even if you believe that the self is born again and again and dies again and again, even then there is no grief required. Na evam shochitum arhasi. And here he is addressing Arjuna as Mahabaho, mighty armed one. You are grieving like this. Where is your might now? Crying like this. Why? Why there is no cause of grief? There will be grief. Somebody, my dear and dear one, my revered guru, my revered grandfather, all these people are standing there. If they depart, I will have grief. So he says, not required. Why? Because there is an unchangeable rule. And what is that rule? 27th verse, we will chant the verse, we will talk about this tomorrow. जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मादपरिहार्येऽर्थे तस्मादपरिहार्येऽर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि. So there is this unchangeable rule. And what is a rule? Anything that is born must die, and anything that dies will be born again. Now, if that is the case, if this cannot be changed, this is the most natural law, and what to grieve? No need to grieve. So even if your belief is given the status of reality, even then No need to grieve. So stop crying now. That is what he's saying. And stop crying. So he is given from the highest knowledge standpoint also, and even from a belief standpoint also. He's saying, okay, you keep your belief. No, I'm not asking you to change your belief, but from your belief standpoint also, it is not valid. Your grief is not valid. So I won't accept your grief. So we'll see more about this tomorrow. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ